When some of us look at our current world situation, we see a catastrophic human crisis emerging within view. If you are not seeing what is emerging, you are simply not paying attention. There are several key issues that are coming together to ensure a Darwinian culling of the human species, and that, my friends, is no exaggeration. Currently, we, as a global species, are relying on dwindling global resources coming from distant places for our day-to-day survival, and many are completely unaware of how fragile that supply chain is. We take for granted how the very essentials of daily life magically appear in our local stores for our thoughtless consumption. How our food is grown or raised, how it makes its journey from the farm to the table, how clean water gets into our homes, and how cheap, reliable energy powers our everyday lives without a thought. What of our ability to purchase those goods from others? Our everyday life is consumed with the activity of making money. For it is, we are told, with money that we can acquire what we need for our survival and amusement. Our global system has made it so. Without money, without this paper that buys less and less with every ticking second, that we find ourselves in the civilized world unable to survive without it for long. It has become very clear to those that are paying attention that the path humanity is on is headed for a cliff. Human beings naturally have an inclination to avoid the unpleasant. When most people face something unpleasant in their lives, like a bad relationship or a situation that no longer serves them, they most often put off, ignore, or distract the mind with behaviors or mind-altering substances, hoping that the situation shall somehow right itself without facing difficult choices. Of course, this type of denial is psychologically harmful and the reason for most depression. As we live our lives ignoring rather than facing difficulties in our personal lives without meaningful corrections that will lead to a more satisfying situation. Our society is but a mere reflection of our collective inclinations. We as a species have a very serious situation in our world that we need to face, but the collective response is increasingly that of denial, myopia, apathy, and our choice to ignore the perils that awaits our near future in the hopes that they too may find magical solutions that do not exist. Our politicians, obsessed at kicking the can to the next election, fail to serve us because we, as people of our respective nations, fail to serve ourselves in societies where ignorance is bliss. What I am about to say is not fear-mongering, but a call to all to take a long, hard look at the danger that approaches so that we can act with reason and not react with blind fear. If we as people are fully aware of the risks, we can act proactively and mitigate those risks with intelligent thought and appropriate actions. That being said, I would like you to consider the following issues. The global financial system, which is based on ever-increasing debt, is on the verge of total collapse. The dollar and all the currencies around the world are quickly losing their value, and thus what we are able to buy with the same amount of currency becomes less and less. It is very likely in the near future that the dollar will become worthless as a means of exchange in the global marketplace. Our leaders will fix this, won't they? Why, they have a solution, don't they? Just raise the debt ceiling, right? Who will lend to us should we decide to take on more debt? In order to borrow, there must be a lender. Who will that be? Everyone is loaded with debt. All the currencies are losing value. Why should anyone hold anything that buys less or becomes worthless the longer you hold it? What happens when countries who sell us things stop taking dollars, or the items they sell become prohibitively expensive? How will we import things we need when others decide not to sell us these things, or we can no longer afford them? Well, we will bring it in ourselves, won't we? How? We need energy in the form of fuel to bring items from afar. The farther the item, the higher the energy cost to acquire them. But wait, we don't have enough natural energy supplies to sustain the system, because we must import it at a cost that will be getting greater. Yes, folks, what happens now? It is quite clear that we have a dilemma rapidly developing in our world. Things will magically stop appearing at the local stores. Power and goods will become increasingly expensive and unattainable. Unemployment will continue to increase to the point where government will not have the resources to manage or help. So what are we to do? There is a growing movement of people who are taking proactive steps to control their destiny. These people, dubbed preppers, are people from all walks of life, all political persuasions, all ethnicities and races, who have come to the conclusion that danger is in fact a likely reality in the near future. These people by no means have all the answers to the many problems that face us, or a crystal ball to see into the future. But they are quite sure they should not leave their well-being and the well-being of their families in the hands of their less than competent leaders. They have seen the writing on the wall and prepare for the worst and hope for the best. These people are storing food and water for themselves and their families in case of some unforeseen event that may interrupt their supply of life's necessities. These people are stocking up in items that may help them in the world unlike the world we have today. The items they store are not items which need disposable parts, but items that have served their ancestors in a time before life's current conveniences. Some are even planning beyond food storage, as the length of such a crisis may be far longer than their supplies will last. Many who can are migrating to places where they were able to sustain themselves with livestock and planted harvests. These people are re-educating themselves with information and the art of self-sufficiency that has been lost to this generation. They are buying weapons to defend themselves from the lawlessness that would ensue in the absence of law enforcement. People who cannot leave their urban environments are growing rooftop gardens and keeping rabbits and chickens in an attempt to offer some renewable source of nutrition in addition to their food sources. Goats have become more common in the suburbs as a reliable alternative to dairy sources. People are becoming proactive because unconventional times require unconventional solutions. These people are becoming less and less fringe and more mainstream. The people are becoming more and more aware that our leaders have no such solution, and the world is quickly headed to a global disaster of epic proportions. When the dust settles, those people, called preppers, shall inherit the earth.